So my financial journey started, I'll say like way before I even started like paying off my debt and everything, probably back in like my mid 20s. I started, I watched a documentary called The Minimalists. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on, it was on Netflix at the time. I think it's on YouTube now, but it was a documentary that basically just, they're a little extreme and like they own few things or whatever, but really the whole premise of their, of their message is to focus less on things and more on like the experiences and people around you. So I really went through a time where I started doing that. I pared down what I had and really
Mhm.
focused on, what mattered to me most. And it really helped me like wrangle my spending habits in because I was focusing more on like being in the moment and like with the people
Mhm.
and experiencing things that I wanted to rather than just like having all this stuff that doesn't matter and was taking from my very small paychecks at the time. Right. So I'll say
Mhm.
that sort of got me started on like the mindset around like what I'm spending and what I really value and things like that. Then probably 2 or 3 years after that, um, I had just moved in with my boyfriend at the time. He's now my husband, but I moved in with my boyfriend at the time, moved cities, and had decided, I was in my late 20s and I thought, hey, that what they say is you should be buying a house at this time. So I went ahead and said, I think I'm going to buy a house. And I knew that we were not married yet. So I wanted to just do that on my own. Obviously, we'd be living together, but I wanted to just put it in my name. So started looking at houses and I was feeling like very unsure about it. I didn't have much
Mhm.
in savings. I had student loans, I had my car payment, typical stuff. But you know what they say, the house is the next thing that you should be doing, especially if you're in your late 20s, like you're late to the party. So
Mhm.
I remember like I went and looked at some houses with a realtor and I was just feeling like super uncomfortable about the situation and I was like I have to listen to what's going on inside or I'm going to make a bad decision. So I remember I
Yeah.
went home that night and I Googled, I went to the almighty Google and I said, should I be buying a house with little in savings? And the answer was a resounding no, you shouldn't. So I told the realtor, hey, I'm gonna stop this for the time being. Like I remember talking to like the mortgage person and I was like, can I put zero down for the house? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just had no idea what I was really doing. So I remember after that, like falling into like a Google rabbit hole, I had decided that, probably wasn't the best timing to be buying a house. So I told the realtor that I was gonna be done with that. And that was probably in 2018. So I was in my late 20s and decided that I was going to pay off my debt before I did anything else. I wanted to not have debt because obviously that was taking from my paychecks at the time.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to be able to save money up. Whatever I wanted to put down as a down payment, I wanted to have that, but I also wanted to have an emergency fund because, as we all know, things happen when you own a home. I wanted to have money set aside for that. So for me, I spent the next 3 years really paying off all of my debt. So at the time, getting real with numbers here and vulnerable, I was making probably 50,000 a year, and my debt total was about 52,000. So it's all relative. So if you make $100,000 and you have $100,000 in debt, pretty relative to the same situation, right? So like I said, I spent the next 3 years really paying that off. I scraped my life down to the bare bones to make that happen, especially with the smaller income that I had. Picked up a few side jobs on the side to really make that happen. But the first thing I did was pay off my car
Mhm.
because I did the debt snowball. So I took my smallest debt, which was the little bit left I had on my car, and then paid that off. And then I rolled into my student loans and just kept paying that off. So it was, 3 years. I know that's a long time. It was a long time. I don't think I bought clothes during that entire thing, but I knew for small sacrifice on the other side of that was just going to be such a big reward for me. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like, all through those years, my husband and I, we were renting. We decided at that time we weren't going to buy. We went and rented. We rented a house. I think our rent was like $1,200 at the time. So we obviously split that for 600 and my paychecks weren't that big. I was only making like 50,000 a year and had money going into a pension for the job that I was at the time. So my paychecks were not that big. I remember getting paid like once a month, and every month I would sit down and map out exactly where that paycheck was going. And I would say probably like 70% of it was going to like
Yeah.
debt. Like I had my small emergency fund set aside, like super small, especially because we were renters. Like if anything happened in our house, we knew that was taken care of. So I had a super small emergency fund and decided to just put everything else I had into the debt that I had to pay off. And then it actually sped up my journey. I finished just a few months before the 3 year mark because of it was kind of at the end stages of COVID. So my student loans were actually at 0%, which helped me immensely. So I wasn't spending like 4,000 to 5,000 on interest anymore. It was the last year of it was like 0%, which was absolutely incredible.
Game changer, right?
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. So that was really my journey. It was hard. I was working a job where I was commuting. I think I was for a lot of that. I was commuting an hour one way. So I was constantly listening to money podcasts. I will say, I don't even want to know how many hours of podcasts I listened to, but I was surrounding myself with that information all the time to stay in zone. And I don't know how I did this for 3 years. I really don't know. But I will say it's like being on the other side of it now, I can barely describe to you like how free you feel to have absolutely no payments and just really just kind of be, you know, I don't feel chained to anything. Like even a job, I'm like, if I get laid off, okay, cool. I have zero payments other than my house. I could go work at Target and make enough, you know, between my husband and I to make that work. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I'm missing anything big. Do you have any questions about that? I feel like I need to like write it all down because now it's like out of my mind because it was 3 years ago now. But any questions that pop up, like first and foremost?
Did you have that Dave Ramsey $1,000 emergency fund that whole time?
I did. I definitely did. Yeah, I guess that's a big part of it too. So I followed the baby steps, kind of. Like I did the $1,000 emergency fund and then just crushed my debt. You know, there's certain things I disagree with him on, but you know, paying off the debt, it got it done. That method and just being introduced to that for the first time was absolutely life-changing. So yeah, I had my $1,000 emergency fund, threw everything else into my debt to make this all happen. So wasn't really going out to eat much unless like my husband at the time, boyfriend, wanted to pay for it because I was not spending money there. Like I said, I didn't buy clothes. I had already went through a minimalist journey, which really helped me understand that like I didn't need that stuff anyway. I was really focused on this end goal. And I'll tell you what, like after a few months I think my car was paid off pretty quickly because I had some money in savings. I had less than like $5,000 in savings when I started. So I took like that 3,000 to 4,000 and put it towards my car. So my car was paid off within like the first year. And then it was just chucking away at those little student loans. And I had the federal student loans. So like inside of that, there's like multiple ones listed inside of there. So I was trying to like chuck those off from like smallest to largest too. So yeah, now looking back, I really can't believe like I did that. But it's probably one of the proudest things of myself I've ever done, just because I mean, that was hard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I love about like the Dave Ramsey like style of finance, like operating your finances is it's all or nothing, you know? It's like you're paying off debt. That's your sole financial focus. You save up your $1,000, you pay off debt. You don't worry about going out to eat. You don't worry about having all these like life experiences. And, you know, you worry about getting your life in order first, your financial life in order. Then you can enjoy the rest of life after that. And in my mind, like to me, and that doesn't work for everyone. And that's not a plan for everyone. For me, that was also the thing that was just like, that was perfect. You know, it's like focus on this thing and then we can start enjoying life. We can start you can build the life you want when you're starting from like zero, right? The problem is people try to build this life that they want and they're starting in the negative and then they're trying to live life while they're trying to pay off debt. And then it just gets complicated and emotions come up and you feel like you're missing out. And it's like, dude, if I just commit to this, then I can get out of it quicker. And like you said, like literally the proof is there. $52,000 in 3 years, making 50 grand. And, you know, I'm sure there was some things that helped along the way, but like, that's crazy, right? Like that's 17 grand a year.
The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.